Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Tuesday tip, where in this video we're going to be talking about the basics of grinding on a BMX bike. So before we get into the prerequisites and actually how to grind itself, let's define what grinding is on a BMX bike. Grinding is pretty self-explanatory, but to put a definition to it, I would say that grinding is taking a part of your bike and sliding it across another object or obstacle, such as this small grind box that we have beside me here. Usually this is done on the pegs, but it's also done in other places too sometimes, such as the crank arms or a few other places. There's a few different variations that can be done with this, even on the pegs and crank arms. There's feeble grinds, double peg grinds, Smith grinds. All of these are different variations of tires being on a ledge or rail and pegs being on a ledge or rail. There's even some variations where you're only using one peg, such as the toothpick grind or the ice pick grind. In this video, we're just going to be talking about the basics. So we're going to talk about double peg grinds and feeble grinds. And now that we know what a grind is, let's talk about the prerequisites to grinding. I would say that there's really only two of them. The first is the same as in every single other tutorial video that we've done, and that is to just be comfortable on your bike and riding your bike. And the second is to be able to bunny hop comfortably. If we're going to be grinding on a ledge such as this one, we have to get our pegs up onto it somehow, and to do that we have to bunny hop. And that's really it when it comes to prerequisites. This is something that even the newest of beginners can do whenever learning how to ride a BMX bike and getting into freestyle. And now that we've defined what grinding is and talked about the prerequisites, let's get into the steps for actually how to grind and get into the basics of grinding itself. The very first thing that I would say whenever you're learning how to grind is that if you've never ever tried to grind on anything before, and this is your first attempts ever, to find a line on the concrete, or just imagine a line, ride along that line, and then bunny hop over the line to the direction of your pegs, as you're seeing me do on the screen right here. This is to prepare you for hopping laterally to the side to get your pegs up onto a ledge or a rail or whatever you're trying it on. To do it, you have to jump over to the side somewhat. You can't ride straight into the ledge to grind it unless it's a very specialized ledge that's at an angle. So once you're comfortable hopping laterally and hopping over the line to the direction of your pegs, you can now move on to a ledge itself. And I would say that you'd want to start on something similar to this one. It's very short and a very small bunny hop to get up onto it. And I would say that we're going to want to start with the double peg grind. So to do the double peg grind, you do the exact same thing that you were doing in hopping over a line. You're just riding beside the ledge, bunny hopping to the side slightly, and preparing for your pegs to land on it. Get ready for this, because the first few times that you do it, you're probably going to hit the ledge and your pegs are just gonna slide off because you're not quite prepared for it. You can also practice for a double peg grind by going at the ledge too slow and hopping over into a double peg stall. This is just where you're going slow enough that it's not going to grind, or only going to grind just a little bit and you'll come to a stop. This should give you practice in where to keep your body weight whenever you're doing a grind or a stall, so that you can keep your pegs on it and not fall off. And in doing a couple practice runs at a double peg grind, I would say that from a dead stop, putting a foot on the pedal and moving forward, one full steady crank gives you the perfect amount of speed. If you're comfortable, once you get used to double peg stalls, you can move right into this full crank, or you can work your way up to it and get to the point where you're sliding a little bit more and more before it stops. When it comes to hopping off of the ledge, it's less of a hopping motion and more of a pulling motion. So when you're on the ledge, think about it like you're pulling to the side, as you're seeing on the screen. This is one thing that I really struggled with when I first was learning double peg stalls, because I was trying to bunny hop straight up off of a wooden ledge. My back peg would catch up every single time because I wasn't getting out far enough, or pulling out at all for that matter, and it just wasn't working for me. So when you're doing this, Think about it like you're trying to pull to the side, and when you do this, just look in the direction you want to go and pull all of your weight in that direction. So a few things to be aware of whenever you're trying to learn how to grind is that whenever you're getting onto the ledge with your pegs, and I do recommend that you try this on a ledge first before trying it on a rail, you want to think about keeping your weight over your pegs more than over the other side of your bike or the middle of your bike, so that you can keep more weight on the pegs, keeping you on the ledge and keeping you moving forward with your grind. Another thing I would say is that you want to wait till after the beginning of the ledge to hop onto the ledge, so that you don't have to worry about catching your back peg on the way up, and that you can just focus on getting over to the ledge with your pegs and grinding and then coming off of it. Another tip for coming off of the ledge would be to turn your bars a little bit in the direction that you're trying to go. At this point in things, it becomes trial and error, and you just have to keep practicing with these double pegs. If you're having trouble getting onto them and you might be missing a peg, just keep practicing the lateral hopping motion over a line so that you can practice getting the strength necessary and getting the muscle memory of hopping to the side that your pegs are on, so that you can make sure you hop far enough. If you're having problems with staying on the ledge with your pegs, as in you're just falling off of it, try to lean a little bit more over your pegs by a motion kind of like this, so that you keep most of your weight over your pegs and on the ledge to keep your grind moving forward. And once you get the double peg grind down, you can move into more complex grinds such as the feeble or Smith grind. A feeble grind is where your front tire is on the ledge along with your back peg. This one's pretty simple. You just have to try to bunny hop higher with your front tire than your back, and a little bit more of an angle so that your front tire makes it onto the ledge. This is really just the same motion as a double peg grind, but the front tire is higher than that of a double peg grind. So when you're doing this, you're gonna wanna approach with the same speed, the same distance away from the ledge. You're gonna wanna hop in the same place, as in further than the beginning of the ledge, so you don't have to worry about your back peg hanging up, and you're just gonna try to pull up harder to keep the front tire in the air longer and get it onto the ledge. This is one of those things that you just have to practice. And just like we talked about for double peg grinds, you can also try feeble stalls before doing a feeble grind. But if you're comfortable doing double peg grinds, you should be all right going straight into the feeble. I think that it's much easier to get off of a feeble than a double peg, but it's also got that little bit more of a scare factor, and that is why I recommended trying double peg grinds first. Real quickly, one thing I forgot to mention is what to do if you make it to the end of the ledge and you're going off of the end of the ledge. What you're gonna wanna do in this circumstance, if you're in a double peg or a feeble grind, is you're going to want to lean back so that you can kind of pull up on the front end of the bike and keep it hovering until the back peg comes off of the ledge. This mostly applies to double peg grinds and feeble grinds on ledges, and double peg grinds and feeble grinds on rails, because if you get to the end of the rail and you're not prepared for it, or the end of the ledge, your bike will just drop out from underneath of you, and if you're not leaning back, it's going to be bad. You'll probably do a front flip of some sort. So realistically, when it comes to grinding, what you have to think about is hopping laterally and hopping high enough with the parts of your bike that you're trying to get onto the ledge, and then just trial and error, go into stalls, practice pulling off of stalls, and work your way up to more and more speed and grinding further and further until you get to the point where you're doing them comfortably. You can even add more into and out of the grind, or even spins into and out of the grind. One of my favorite tricks ever is a 180 to Fakie double peg grind to 180 out. And once you're comfortable doing grinds, you can take it to rails, you can take it to just about anything, quarter pipes. It's just one of those things that's versatile and you can do just about anywhere in any aspect of riding BMX. So that's just about gonna wrap up this video on the basics of grinding on a BMX bike. Hopefully this semi driving by doesn't ruin my audio. I hope that you learned something and found this video useful. If you did, let me know in the comments down below. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below. I make tips and tricks videos just like this one every Tuesday, and BMX news videos on Fridays, along with other types of riding videos and streams throughout the week. Hopefully that semi's not ruining it either. Either way though, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.